And a very warm Supersound Radio welcome to Mr. Joe Little, an old school friend of mine, but he'll not want me to talk about that because, he looks a lot younger than me. But I'm just going to start the interview off properly. So, welcome along, Joe. I'll just start with the first question, will I? Where are you right now? Because you're far from Pollock, where we grew up, and what kind of music are you listening to right now?
Good evening, Ian, and listeners from Supersound Radio. Where am I today? I'm in my little studio in Farnham on Firgrove Hill, which is in Surrey. So geographically, music-wise, this is the same street that Genesis in the early days used to rehearse. Mike Rutherford's dad's house was at the top of the hill. And so did Fleetwood Mac, apparently, down at the bottom of the hill, too. Their album Kiln House was there. And about 5 miles south of here, you got Headley Grange, where Led Zeppelin did their lots of things as well as recording albums. What am I listening to today? Bizarrely, I'm listening to David Bowie's Lodger, an album I didn't buy until very recently, and quite enjoying it. It's not as good as the albums either side of it, but it's a nice little find.
Well, it sounds as though you're kind of near the epicenter of the creation of some fantastic music down there. Brilliant stuff. So, how did you actually get into to making music yourself?
So how did I get into music? It was a number of things. I started buying albums when I was 16, and I went big. I just borrowed and stole albums from all my friends, listening to absolutely everything. But whilst I was doing so, I was kind of getting an idea of how they were recorded. I used to look at album sleeve covers and look at the instruments they used, and got very, very curious about recording music. And I do believe we got a synthesizer into the school at one point in time. Stevie Davidson brought one, a little Korg one, at one point, and I was just fascinated by it and the sounds it made. So I was always at some point in time going to buy my own synths. And then the next thing was I was a DJ at Radio Air 3, and in my couple of years in, I started to do some producer training, which gave me studio time. And in studio time, rather than record radio shows, I actually used it to make tape loops and muck around with editing and get to use a proper mixing desk and experiment. And then later on in life, with buying instruments and such like, I thought, well, am I ever going to do something with this? And went to a music show at Olympia and saw some great equipment there. So I jotted down everything that would take to make a home studio. Then took it to my little music store nearby and tried to work out how I could do it as cheaply as possible. So I took over my tiny little flat with lots and lots of equipment and started recording music. First of all, dreadfully, by my own admission. I think only my mother's heard my first album, and then I gradually got better and gradually got more confident about letting others listen to my music, and over time started to release CDs and cassettes to friends and relations, and gradually or digitally into a much broader network.
It's fair to say, Joe, that your music is kind of a regular feature here on the Showcase Show on Supersound Radio. Many of the tracks from your previous albums have been played here from time to time, so listeners will recognise the sort of music that you create. So this new album, it's called A Life Erased, and it's got the subtitle of an original soundtrack. Can you tell me what that's all about?
Well, like a lot of people who are in the music world, I did a lot of recording during lockdown. I think I ended up with nearly 6 hours worth of demos between January and sort of September that year. And a chunk of it, about 90 minutes of it, sounded like a soundtrack to a fairly intense thriller or a sci-fi movie. And I kind of started to shape things up a little bit, and I thought, well, I haven't got any soundtrack work happening. This feels like it needs a story. It needs something to attach to it. So the idea of creating, either a like a Brian Eno Passengers thing, where it was a fake soundtrack, didn't really appeal to me. I thought instead, why not have a story that has runs alongside everything that's you can hear musically. So with that in mind, I kind of referenced Blade Runner and a number of other movies, soundtracks which I love, which have dialogue in from the main movie that nicely augments the soundtrack music, and that was kind of my template for A Life Erased. So that was the idea. The problem then was, find a story, and I kind of went through my notes, and the story of A Life Erased, or the thought of the story of A Life Erased popped up. It was an idea from several years ago that a friend of mine had put in my mind, and that was really seemed like the obvious place to bring that out, dust it off, and use that for this project.
Yeah, we've got a kind of jingle here on Supersound Radio that we play from time to time as a kind of advert, and it states that radio is theatre of the mind, and really your album A Life Erased kind of encapsulates that. But as I listened to it for the first and second time, you and I had a conversation online, Joe, about it being kind of standalone without the need for a kind of written story running alongside it, or a visual story running alongside it. Because if you listen to the music and the kind of vocal interludes, the interspersed throughout the album, it's absolutely fantastic. And if you ever get a chance, have a listen to the show that comes on directly after the showcase show at 9 o'clock on Wednesday nights. The great Glenn Dixon and Writer's Block Radio Hour. Brilliant stuff. And you'll see what I mean if you do that, Joe. Anyway, moving on. So, what was your inspiration for A Life Erased? What caused you to sit down and think, well, I'm going to do this?
So the inspiration behind A Life Erased, the story, was it was a bit of a joke, really. I was at a gig in the Royal Albert Hall with a friend of mine, Martin Ingram, and a few of his friends, and we were just chatting about really my past, and that the place where I was born and the schools that I went to are all rubble now. In fact, even my halls of residence at university's gone, bizarrely. And it was just a joke that, you don't get the impression that someone's erasing your life behind you. And someone said, well, that would make a great name for a prog album or a film. And we just laughed at it. But I kind of, the idea was sort of lodged. So when I dug this out as a potential story for the album, it wasn't quite enough. I started to think about, why would that happen? What sort of circumstances would need to come about? And I just started jotting down a whole bunch of ideas of potentially what would happen to. It would have to be a third-party character. What would have to happen to him to get into this situation? I have a few friends who've recovered from comas, and down through the years, I sort of chatted to them about that experience. One friend who has recovered from a condition called reduplicative paramnesia. See, even I can't say it properly. Which is really where gradually you can get your memories back, but it takes time and it takes a lot of kind of association with your past to try and unlock those memories. And I had one friend who had this, and I was quite shocked at the lack of care that he was getting, and lack of help. At that point in time, how much worse would it be if in the current circumstances, mental health care was not treated as seriously as it is? So that was kind of a start point. And it had to be set in the future somehow. I'm doing a lot of reading and writing around futurist work, and was deeply concerned at the rise in fake news and the rise in fake video and the influence that's having on society. And, when you do futurist work, you look at what's the potential backlash. So I kind of set that backlash as part of the reason why he can't easily reach out to his history. though there has been this event called the Wipe, or known as the Wipe, which is a bunch of anarchists in a way who've had enough of fake news, and they seek to destroy physical and digital records, and they've been armed by somebody, a rogue state, in order to do so. So that was the inspiration behind the story. I thought there was a lot of depth to it and a lot of things, a lot of places I could go with it, and it fitted nicely with this individual who's really struggling to grasp who they are and where they're from.
What an incredible concept, Joe. Is it a novel sort of idea? I mean, is it a book? Is it a full story, or is it a short story? And have you any plans to do anything with it?
Well, yes, it is just a short story. It was enough, really, to record the album and to give the actors and the voices something or some context to what they need to do, and I include a short story in the booklet of the CD as well. But yeah, almost since I've finished the album, going back through, there's a lot of characters in there and a lot of events which are skimmed over, and I think I'd like to delve into each of those in a book or a novel, or developing it a bit further. I think the idea's a great one, and a one of our time, really.
There's quite a few different voices on this one, Joe, including a song with Scottish folk singer Ainsley Hamill. She's kind of out of your genre a wee bit. How did that come about, Joe?
Yeah, the connection with Ainsley was a surprising one. We're both part of the Scottish Business Network. She has her business, the Association of Exiled Scots, and myself doing some consultancy work with Scottish businesses, trying to help them be more effective on an international stage. And we were on a Zoom call, and the introduction was made because my backdrop is a lot of CDs, and we just hit it off. We took over the call, the pair of us. Everyone else was kind of listening in, and we immediately started sharing each other's music. She had an EP at that stage and was just about to bring out her album about long lost heroes of the Govan area, which was a commission that she'd taken part in, which is just lovely. It's a stunning album, and we started to have first of all by working on some of her more traditional Gaelic songs, and given them more of a cinematic kind of electronic twist, and had a lot of fun doing that. And I kind of thought it would be great to sort of bring her into this album. Wasn't much space, but I figured there was a point in the story at which the main character, Bill's partner or wife, appears, and wouldn't it be great to have something there which was a bit different. So I managed to pull together a 2-minute piece, just over 2-minute piece. I thought I'd find you here and write her some lyrics, and that was enough. I mean, really very professional singer, stunning voice, and she just took it to another level. She really was fantastic. But yeah, she may be out of my genre, but we're hoping we'll try and get an EP or an album together, nicely combining both of our sort of strengths, as it were. So keep an eye out for that one.
And where did you find the voices for all the other characters?
Well, having set a plan to have a load of voices on your album sounds like a great idea, but that combined with being in lockdown made it quite difficult. I was lucky. I've got a very good friend of mine who's an actor, and my nephew, actually my cousin's son, is also an actor. So they were a great help in recording for several of the voices on the album, and that helped me kind of pick and choose some of the bulk of what I needed to do, and what was left was really trying to find the right kind of voice amongst friends. So we had one gender change, and I'm quite a bit. So finding someone who does an Italian voice, male voice, is not easy. Actually, having an Italian lady was much easier. but the issue was really, I say, lockdown. Trying to find people with the right tone and right voice was not easy. But actually, once I found them, recording them was really not difficult. So there are voices on here from friends in Scotland, locally here in Farnham. One friend who's in Hanover, a lovely Chinese lady who I met in Antarctica. So nice connections like that all pulled together. And yeah, once you get going, you begin to realise some more opportunities to bring voices in to make the story come to life. So I had a kind of a second round of going around friends and asking for some help, including a friend, Kate Bullen, who used to be a link announcer, I think, in Anglia Television, who was the perfect newsreader for the Wipe. Exactly the right voice for that. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but it was kind of fun doing. It was very different to try and find voices for a project like this.
Joe, I know that you donate the proceeds of a lot of your work to charity, and A Life Erased, the proceeds from a Life Erased are going to be going straight to Midhurst Macmillan Cancer Care. So why are you donating all the proceeds to them?
Really, I think this is the kind of the fourth album I've done, raising funds for a cause. Yeah, the really there's no point in me being a professional musician. I'm not at the stage in life where that would be a big deal. Raising funds for a worthy cause is much more important, and Macmillan have looked after many friends and family members, and can still doing so actually. So they're kind of an obvious cause. I made this one specific to Midhurst Macmillan. They're being put in a position where they need to start raising their own funds from this year onwards. So I thought some proceeds from this helping them get on their way would be the right thing to do.
Oh, fantastic stuff, Joe, and I'm sure all our listeners will agree with me that's phenomenal, and what a deserving cause you're donating to this time. Thanks so much, Joe. So what's next in the pipeline? What's your next project going to be?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of projects underway. I mentioned the one with Ainsley earlier on. Hoping that, getting a nice combination of traditional Gaelic songs, maybe a couple in English, and some cinematic kind of electronic sounds together will be a little unique. So that's one project I'm working on. The other one is with a friend of mine called Martin Ingram, who's a very good guitarist and keyboard player, and we've been doing song swaps now for about 9 months. Lots of ideas being thrown in, and I think we've finally found a way to sort of augment each other's style. And we've got a project name which we're working under called the Unnatural Science Orchestra, and we hope to get something together probably by the end of the year under that title. Again, it'll be instrumental, a little melodic, and a little more melodic and organic in terms of piano and guitar. But yeah, it's coming together quite nicely. So that's my next musical project. I've also been doing some jamming with my son Callum, who's a fabulous drummer, and with a bit of luck we might get some recordings together as well.
That's brilliant stuff, Joe. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Showcase Show on Supersound Radio this evening. And please keep in touch and let us know how your projects are panning out in the future. You take care, Joe. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ian. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure's all ours, Joe. Thanks so much again. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to order a copy of Joe's new album, A Life Erased, get in touch with us here at the studio at the usual email address, supersound@scotlandmail.com. And I'm going to play out with a track from Joe's new album, A Life Erased, and it's featuring the aforementioned Ainsley Hamill. And it's a terrific track from the album. It's called I Thought I'd Find You Here. Don't forget, all the proceeds from this album go to Midhurst Macmillan Cancer Care.
Boom.